Hey, what's up, guys? Tukey here, back again with another episode of my Cincinnati Reds Draft to Glory Franchise Mode series. In this episode, we continue on with the 2027 season, and while things haven't exactly gone our way so far this year, we are 6 games back of the division-leading Brewers. There is still that opportunity for us to put the pressure on and potentially make the playoffs, much like we had the opportunity to last year. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of the episode, though, I want to get to a couple of your comments, starting off with Scott. Buddy, that is the type of redemption story that they make movies about, so keep it up. AI never claimed players off of waivers at the start of the season. That does appear to be true, and it might just alter how we handle setting up a roster at the beginning of a season. If I remember right, star players want the 1, 3, and 4 spots. You are not wrong, which means Steven Ryder is about to have a very bad time. Also, WAR is cumulative, and I wanted to address this because I made Steven cringe, which is the worst thing a human could possibly suffer from. Here's the thing. I've mentioned this before, openly. Baseball knowledge as far as advanced stats, not that WAR is the most advanced stat, but baseball knowledge as far as advanced stats go, not up there like it is for hockey. I openly admit that. If that's the type of thing that bothers you, Steven, I'm not saying it is, although it kind of is, clearly, you're gonna have a bad time. That said, I'm working on it. Sorry. Ken Gross, all of your starters are Rule 5 picks. That is true. Cody St. John, you have to boost the budget. That is also true, and we have. You'll notice that we're 5K stubs short as compared to what we had in the last episode. That said, by the way, there's a look at our rotation. That is very much true. That said, we're still going to have a rough time holding on to a ton of good players because we're never going to have the Yankee-style budget of never having to worry about it. It's just not going to happen. So the main thing is that when we do have to let go of a good player, we just have to make sure that A, we have someone ready to replace them, and B, hopefully we get compensation for them. But the fact right now that we have Brian Lopez, who's making $22 million, Bobby Bloom, who's making $28, you have Will Vincent making like $15 or something like that. What is Will Vincent making? $11. Okay, well, close enough. We're doing okay in terms of being able to afford players, but yeah, you add a couple more $20 to $30 million contracts in there. It's not going to matter if we're the Yankees or not. We're not going to be able to balance that. I made it in the video. Thanks, Tukey. Well, guess what, buddy? You made it in this one as well. Everything's coming up Millhouse for you. I think you should alter the rules and sign undrafted free agents. That is not going to happen, unfortunately. Ty Wilson, we will be giving players player options in their contracts if it makes sense, if we have to. And certainly for longer deals. You should get diamond sponsorships so you don't really have to blow up the budget all the time. Do sponsorships still count? Here's the one thing. Now, I know I can build winning teams in this game because I've done it. Do sponsorships still work if you don't play the games? Because genuinely, no one's ever told me that they do. That said, I do have, I do have some sponsorships that we can kind of make work. I guess 0K earned this year. Shit. Well, I guess I'll be adding these on now, won't I? Let's go 40K per win. Let's go per hit for now. Let me know if we should change these. That for some reason became unassigned or not. It's just making me choose the next one again. What the hell? And let's go the old 2K per hit, I guess, for now. If those even matter, which apparently they do. Let me know what other ones we should use, though, because clearly we should use some other ones, but still, I just wanted to get something there. And to Jeff Chapman, a lot of MLB players don't get to Major League level until 24, 26. I am aware. That said, for the most part, I have still been avoiding players who are 22 and are 4+ years away, or 18-year-old players who are 4+ years away, who are very clearly never going to reach that high-end potential. Why? Well, because we have one of those types on our team, Ramon Vasquez. Is he going to eventually become a useful player? Sure, he's on pace to do that. Is he ever going to hit that 90 potential that he had when we drafted him? No. So overall, I got to admit, I'm fairly confident with how we've drafted, and that's not to say I haven't made mistakes. Clearly, in the past 2 drafts, we very much have, which I actually do need to go back and sign who we drafted this year. I mean, hell, Alexis Cabrera is one of those mistakes, as it turns out. But yeah, for the most part, I have to admit, I am fairly confident with the way we have drafted. Should I be that confident? Maybe not. Like I said, certainly hasn't been without mistakes, but it is what it is. As I knew I wasn't going to forget about this, but I kind of wish I had done this off video. But too late now. We're already here. I'm keeping this live. Enjoy the sound of my keyboard as I write down every single name that we drafted before to make sure that I don't accidentally get rid of somebody. So there's that. We have Parra, Pena, Sanchez, Nielsen. We go to the two closers in Mr. Chad Padilla and Jorge Cervantes. And then we have that random right fielder as well. And Gary Johnson as a starting pitcher. Glad I didn't forget about you, Gary. You're not really worth signing, but we'll still sign you for the hell of it. Let's sign up Mr. Fernandez as well. So there we go. Everything with the last draft has been cleared up. We are good to go. Let's go ahead and get into this episode, shall we? The first thing that we need to do, unfortunately, is probably bump down Steven Ryder, even though he has been tremendous where he is. Now, I know this is the DH lineup, but still, it needs to be fixed. Joe Quinlan has done quite well. Josh Stower as well. I kind of want someone with a little bit of speed. Just a tad bit. To be honest, Clem Huff hasn't been that great. But, you know, having him in the lineup has Josh Stowers get a little bit more time, who probably deserves it. I think in this instance, one Joe Quinlan is going to get the bump up. And just in general, I think Joe Quinlan is going to get the bump up so that we can get Brian Lopez into a more ideal role. Of course, Lee Wilkins does have DH time there, so Lopez, congratulations, and this way too. Hopefully you start playing more to your full potential with you being on a cold streak. You are a 91 playing like a 93, so it's not like it was a major factor, but still, we're pretty much good to go. Let's do this. Let's continue onward. Let's get to the All-Star break, and we'll see how we can do as Tom Vernon down in AAA is eligible. And we'll go auto on that one. Vernon's no longer injured. Good to know. Let's see here. Oh, minor league all-star game. Not entirely worried as we beat San Diego. We split that 4-game series with Milwaukee and take 3 out of 4 against the Padres, 2 out of 3 against Chicago. We beat the Royals over 2 games, lose to Milwaukee, and take 3 games against Arizona. We're doing pretty well. Martin Abreu down in AAA. It's going to be out for a week or 2. We'll go ahead and auto-fix that lineup, and we're going to lose that series to San Francisco. We did avoid being swept, though, so we do have a winning record. We're 1 game over 500 as of the All-Star break, which is quite promising, I have to admit. Now, we don't have any participants in the Home Run Derby, so I'm not going to worry about that. But I will worry about the All-Star game, where we have, on more than one occasion, had multiple representatives, and there's a good chance for that again this year as we head down to San Francisco. So, Luis Castillo, how I wish you were ours. You are not. Who do we have? We have Will Vincent, yet again, making an all-star game. 96 overall, playing like a 98. What an absolute gem. 24 saves on the season for Mr. Vincent. He is our only pitching representative. For position players, we do not have a single starter. Shout out to Jonathan India, though. Do we have anybody else? Graham Edwards has made it, which is great. 10 home runs, 38 RBIs, a 229 average, so I'm kind of surprised that Graham made it. And Brian Lopez is also an all-star yet again. B potential now, some minuses here and there, but still hitting 260 on the year, 56 RBIs, 14 home runs. So 3, unless I missed one, 3 all-star representatives for your Reds as the NL dominates that all-star game. And let's take a look, now that we've had a couple days off, at what could be changed. Denneberg wants to be the ace, and will be. And I think, as far as rewarding, Winston Medina. Winston, buddy, you're making this difficult because we can't send you down. The only option would be to call up Carrasco, which is a terrible idea because he is not ready. I don't exactly want to move Medina to the bullpen either, but I think I'm going to. We're going to give Eduardo Herrera a chance. He is not exactly starting caliber, but Winston Medina, we're stuck with you for this season unless I choose to get rid of you. And as far as everything else is concerned, I think the rotation's probably fine. It's the bullpen that was a little bit concerning. Again, Bruce Boyle, very frustrated with not being the closer, but that's just the way it is. I think we're good as far as the rest of the bullpen's concerned. And as far as our lineup goes, again, Graham Edwards does make it. Let's look at non-DH, where There's really not much I want to change because Glover and Wilkins are both really strong bats, but as far as them being everyday players, I'm just not sure because where the hell would we put Glover? We could put Bobby out in left and drop Josh Stowers. That would pretty much be the answer as far as how Glover ends up in the everyday lineup. And for Lee Wilkins, there's just not a spot for him. He would have to be in the outfield as well. And Steven Ryder nor Brian Lopez are going anywhere. So I think for now, we're probably okay to continue onward. Standings-wise, we are up to third, just 4.5 games back of the Pirates and Brewers, who are deadlocked right now. So things are looking up for us. 27th rated team. As far as the wild card's concerned, we're 4.5 back as well. We'll see how things go here. I mean, we were on a pretty good run of form. We do have to play Chicago. They have an identical record in a 4-game series here, post All-Star break, and we are losing that series. We lose 3 out of 4. Yikes. Another 4 games here against Colorado. So Richie Colon goes down to injury. God damn it, as we continue to drop games. Fernando Tatis on the move, and we cannot win a game as we lose. God. We lose 7 out of 8 post All-Star break. Yikes. Another 3 games against Chicago, and we are falling apart. Absolutely falling apart. Brutal. Let's go ahead and fix the AAA lineup here. Honestly, not sure who we're even sending down. I think we can just easily send down a second baseman and solve that issue. So this has been rough. We have 2 games against St. Louis. We lose them both. Brian Hughes down in AA goes down to injury. And we are essentially boned at this point. Now 8 games back of 500. Oh, God. 4 games against San Francisco. Can we get some form of a winning streak, or at least, a habit going on? We don't even need a streak. We split that series against the Giants. 3 games against the Twins. As Sean Jelly goes out for 1 to 2 weeks. That's a little bit rough. Chavez as well also goes down. We do take all 3 games against the Twins. So we are at, we are at 55 and 60, 6.5 back. That is such a brutal way to start this episode. 8 games out of the wild card. To be honest, I'm not really going to worry about Mr. Jelly. We do have Medina automatically in the rotation. Let's see what we can do here. 3 games against the Mets. We win the first, lose the second. Nothing but injuries right now. Jesus. And win the third, so we take that series. 2 games against Pittsburgh, and this is a big opportunity to swing some points in our favor. And there we go. Or not some points, but you get the point. As Sean Jelly is back. 59 and 61 on the season. We made up quite a bit of ground with that. Just 3.5 back in the division. We still have a long way to go. 4 games against the Cardinals. We win the first, lose the second, win the third, and lose the fourth. I'll take that split, despite the fact they have a losing record. 2 more games against Kansas City. They are 5 games under, and we lose both. And every time we start to make up some momentum, we immediately lose it. 4 huge games against Milwaukee, and we win 3 out of 4. Just 2 games under 500 now, 5.5 back in the division. It's going to be a close finish here. I can't help but think that we are going to fall just short yet again, that we're still a little bit of a ways off from where we want to be. And obviously losing 2 out of 3 to Philly doesn't help. We have 3 games against Atlanta, and we take the series. Not bad. 3 games against Pittsburgh as we head into the home stretch of September. The AAA ball club unfortunately can't pick up a winning season, nor can the Blue Wahoos down in AA, as we take all 3 games against Pittsburgh to move back over 500 for the first time since the All-Star break. We are currently in second place in the NL Central, 2.5 games back of the Cubs. For the wild card, we are 3.5 back. We have a chance here, despite how badly we performed post-All-Star break. We still have a chance to maybe pull off a miracle and somehow sneak into the playoffs, as we have, of course, the automatic September call-ups, which I'm fine with. Not really too worried, although That said, I am going to give the game control over who plays where. Screw it. I'm all right with that. And again, in terms of call-ups and send-downs, there's not much I have to worry about. Martin Abreu on the AAA roster, but even if... oh, God, he's actually the best catcher for us, but he's obviously defensive first. I mean, even if Shipman or Rincon go down, I'm still all right with them over Abreu. We do have space, but honestly, it's beyond September 1st anyway. So, it is what it is. I'm good with that. I honestly still don't expect us to make it. We have 4 games here against the Mets. Can we take 2 out of 3? Henry Shipman, a little bit roughed up. We take 3 out of 4. We are now 3 games over 500 at 73 and 70. Where are we? We are 1 game back of the Cubs. This could be happening. 1.5 back of the wild card. Our destiny is in our hands right now. This is a possibility. We could do this. 2027 could be remembered as the year that we first made the playoffs. 3 games against Pittsburgh to further solidify that separation between the 2 clubs, and we get swept back to 500 at 73 and 73. Yes, I know I can check the standings from there, but it's much more visual from here. We're now 1.5 games back of the Cubs, the Pirates as well. 1 extra game played, they lost it, so that is devastating. 3 games against Milwaukee. We need to win this series, and we do. That sets up 3 games against a very good Rocky squad. 2 out of 3 would be ideal, or we can just sweep the 91-win Rockies. That works too. Now 78 and 74. We are tied with the Cardinals atop the NL Central. 1.5 games above the Cubs, 2.5 above the Pirates. This is ridiculous. We might be able to pull this off. 3 games against a Cleveland squad who are of similar skill to us, at least by standing. Same with St. Louis and same with Chicago. We can do this. We could absolutely do this. Are we going to find ourselves in the playoffs? Oh, God, transactions. I don't even think I care. I don't. Come on. Game 1 against Cleveland's a win. Game 2 is a win. Game 3 is a loss, but we take 2 out of 3 and take the series. We're up to 80 wins on the season. We are currently tied now with St. Louis atop the division, which means these next 4 games, and in general, the last 7 of the season, are so goddamn important. Game 1 against the Cardinals is a loss. Ha. Game 2 is a win. Game 3 is a loss. Game 4 has to be a win, and it's not. We lose 3 out of 4. We are now 2 games back of St. Louis, a game out of the wild card. We may have just choked it away. Game 1 against the Cubs is a win. Game 2 is a loss. Are we out of the playoffs? Did we just manage to choke it away? The Cardinals have won the division title. We are a game back. We must win this game. The Dodgers need to lose, or we are screwed and somehow choked away a playoff spot. This final game against the Cubs is a win. Are we in? Oh my God. There is a 3-way tie for the second wildcard spot between us, the Mets, and the Dodgers. We will play the Dodgers in a 1-game playoff. Although we're shown now as 1.5 games back. We will play the Dodgers. Should this even be the case? It's a 1-game playoff against Los Angeles for a chance to go to the postseason. They had to already play. They've played 1 more game than we have. So I guess, if I'm understanding this correctly, they played the Mets and beat the Mets. Now we get to play the Dodgers. Why the Dodgers had to play 2 extra games, I do not know. But they do. I'm going to guess they had to go through New York and now have to go through us to make it. We have a 1-game playoff against Fernando Romero and the Dodgers to go to the playoffs for the very first time after choking away a division title. Good Lord. Good Lord. We have the advantage batting-wise. We have the advantage ERA-wise, shockingly. On the road, we cannot trust Winston Medina. It's going to have to be Thomas Manzanillo who gets the opportunity to get us into the playoffs against 87-rated Fernando Romero. It has to be Manzanillo. Lineup-wise, who the hell even knows? Oh, God in heaven. Romero is a righty. Josh Rincon looking pretty damn good, but I want the stronger bat in of Henry Shipman. That's not even a debate. It does say, there we go, Manzanillo. Thank you very much. I know Rincon's in good form, 253 average. I trust Henry Shipman more. Obviously, batting isn't everything, but I trust Henry Shipman more, even if Rincon's been in good form right now. I'm going to go with Shipman. Carrillo hitting 235. We have Wilkins still over 300. Glover nearly at 300. Jimenez at 300. Huff at a 235. I'm going to... God, I don't know if I'm going to sit Carrillo or not. I am. Glover can play right. Wilkins can play left. Lee Wilkins is going to play this game in left field. Not the best fielder, but I want that bat in the lineup, even if he hasn't played a ton this season. We have Jones, Ryder, Lopez, Bloom, Quinlan, and Edwards. I'm feeling okay about this. I don't know if I should be. But that is the lineup that I'm going to go with. They are very tired. There's no way that they didn't play yesterday. I kind of want to get Glover in, but there's not much I can do. Normally, though, I'd want to get Josh Stowers in. But I'm going to give Lee Wilkins the chance. We have some talent and a half on the bench right now. I don't know if going with Lee Wilkins is the best idea. Or Henry Shipman, for that matter. Not going with Carrillo and with Rincon, who are in good form. But, man, that's tough. Do I go with the players who have performed the best, or do I go with the players I trust? Do I go with the players here? I'm going to trust Carrillo and Rincon. I don't know if I'm going to regret this or not. I'm going to keep the lineup as is. And obviously we have chances. No. Get out of here. I think I'm starting Damian Montag in a one-game playoff. Are you out of your goddamn mind? This is a must-win game. Oh, God. I was hoping last year would be the year that we found ourselves in this spot. We're here a little bit later than I was hoping to be, but still, not a bad spot to be in. 2027, going down to the wire, battling for a spot in the postseason. Whew. We got this. We got this. We got this. I believe, damn it. I believe. Graham Edwards strikes out. Quinlan walks. Not going to risk... You know what? No, we're going aggressive. We're going aggressive. Bobby Bloom is up. We're going aggressive. Quinlan gets caught. Bloom lines out. Unfortunate. Had to be aggressive with it, though. Manzanillo, what can you do for us? You give up a one-out double to Winker. He moves over to third. Kelenic grounds out, and thankfully, we dodged that bullet. Can we get anything going offensively? The answer appears to be no. Garcia walks. Back-to-back walks for Garcia and Ramirez. Alvarez flies out. Gillespie pops out. The pitcher Romero pops out. And again, Manzanillo making it a tad bit nerve-wracking, but getting the job done thus far, as we'll definitely have Manzanillo try to bunt Rincon over. He does. Edwards swing away, strikes out. Damn it all. Damn it all. Vickers grounds out. Winker grounds out. Smith pops out. One hit through 3 innings for both teams combined. Quinlan walks. Gonna go for it again because, damn it, aggressiveness. He gets it this time. Bobby Bloom swings away, singles. We got runners at the corner. Runners at the corners with 1 out. No outs, actually. I mean, we got to go sac fly here for Lopez. He gets it. Run is on the board. And Steven Ryder will have the chance to swing away. He grounds out into a fielder's choice. Nolan Jones with 2 outs strikes out. But we do strike first. We are on the board. Quite happy about it. So we'll see what Manzanillo can do here. So he walks Garcia with 1 out and gets out of it. So both teams just 1 hit. But we do have the difference-making run. Carrillo strikes out. Rincon grounds out. Manzanillo strikes out. To the bottom of the 5th we go. Leadoff double for Gillespie. Romero strikes out. Vickers singles. 2 on, 1 out. Winker into a fielder's choice. Runners at the corners with 2 outs for Dominic Smith, who strikes out. Manzanillo out of trouble again. As Graham Edwards will lead off the top of the 6th with a single. And, of course, will look to be aggressive with Joe Quinlan at the plate. We will try to bunt him over successfully. Bobby Bloom, can you hit the sac fly? He cannot. It's up to Brian Lopez, who strikes out. So a big wasted opportunity from the 3 and 4 hitters in the lineup. Manzanillo has done well, but I'm a bit worried about the energy because one swing of the bat could change this. I'm going to let him pitch to Kelenic. He strikes him out. Garcia strikes out. Ramirez, there it is. And we are tied. Manzanillo, I trusted you, and you just could not get the job done, unfortunately. Lincoln Post is going to be brought in. Held on for too long. Let's see. A 2-out double for Alvarez. Gillespie walks. Romero, a pinch hitter. It's Chris Bryant who pops out. We are tied through 6 innings. Steven Ryder against De Los Santos. He flies out. Nolan Jones walks. Carrillo into a double play. Brutal. Lincoln Post still in. Now Steve Carrasco brought on. Strikes out Vickers. Winker with a single. Smith with another single. Kelenic strikes out. Garcia flies out. Whew, they're now out hitting us 7-2, but we are still tied. Rincon, I do not trust at this point. We are going to bring on Henry Shipman. No, I don't trust him. Shipman's coming in, and I'm not going to be afraid to do that throughout the rest of the lineup if necessary. Henry Shipman, let's see what you can do. Not the best idea to bring you in against a righty, but I don't really care. Shipman grounds out. Carrasco, obviously. We're going to look to bring in a pinch hitter. And I'm going to give the opportunity to Marlin. I trust Glover, Stowers, and Wilkins more, if need be. Let's give Marlin Puh the opportunity here, the former Rule 5 pickup. Can he get anything going? He singles. Beautiful. And as far as substitutions go for a pinch runner, it would, there's really nobody. There's really nobody, so we'll be fine. Graham Edwards, swing away, buddy. It brought in, oh shit, I didn't even see Glenn Huff. Okay, well, yeah, that works. I somehow didn't even see Glenn Huff. Who gets caught stealing? Edwards grounds out. Wouldn't have mattered anyway. As for some reason, the game decided to leave Glenn Huff on instead of substituting for me. Thank you. We'll now bring in Napoleon Gillis. And hopefully he can get out of this situation with an inherited base runner. Here in the bottom of the 8th, Alvarez pops out. Gillespie, pinch runner brought on. Pearson, stolen base. Pearson walks. De Los Santos against Nick Martini, strikes out. 2 outs here against Travis Vickers, who strikes out. Whew. Napoleon Gillis gets us out of that. Zach Gallen brought on here in the top of the 9th. Quinlan, a defensive substitution brought on. I think that's a catcher with Barrera. Quinlan, singles. He is 1 for 2 in terms of steal attempts tonight. He's going for it again, and he gets caught. My aggressiveness may be my downfall, but so be it. Bobby Bloom pops out. Lopez strikes out. That may be the big story, is Bobby Bloom being 1 for 4. Lopez and Ryder both at 0 for 3. Gillis still on. A pop out there for Vickers. Actually, for Winker. Dominic Smith. Solo shot. And the Dodgers take it 2-1. we are going to fall just short of making the playoffs. Right. I don't even want to look at the... I mean, you would have seen the stat line a second ago as far as who underperformed and who really let us down in that game, unfortunately. You could say it was me for being as aggressive base running-wise, or perhaps not taking out Rincon, maybe taking him out to begin with. But to me, one hit for Bobby Bloom, nothing from Lopez, Ryder, Jones. Not great. Not great. Our big players, in my opinion, really let us down, and unfortunately for Manzanillo, just to, have it not work out the way it did. 83-80, our best season ever, and we fall just short of making the playoffs. It'll be the Dodgers and Padres. Winner plays Colorado. St. Louis plays Washington. Over in the AL, Boston and Baltimore. Winner plays New York. Detroit plays Los Angeles. So taking a look here, we're going to be doing our season recap. We'll be ending this episode by getting a look at the big names that need to be re-signed, but obviously it's very disappointing to find ourselves where we are right now. If we take a look here, though, at all of our important players at catcher, we do have Martin Abreu, who is a legitimate 81. Obviously not the strongest at bat, but we are going to have a decision to make with him, I'm sure. And unfortunately, we can't see his MLB stats. But Josh Rincon, who is a legit 78 overall. Again, also not the strongest at bat, although there was some good development this season. 4 home runs, 16 RBIs, and a .252 average in 230 plate appearances. As again, we will scroll through as much as we can. Henry Shipman. We chose him over MJ Melendez. Overall, the contact against lefties took a major hit. 4 home runs, 48 RBIs, and a .268 average on the season. Whether or not that was the right call or not, time will tell. I mean, you could make that decision now. And I suppose the big question is really, how much longer is he a stopgap for because of his hitting ability, or do we switch to Rincon and Abreu, who are both okay with platoon roles, at least at the moment. We'll see if that stands. You also have Damian Camacho, who is down to a 61. At first base, Bobby Bloom, who again did kind of let me down in that final game, especially for a $28 million player. That's the type of game where you make your money. Didn't happen. The 94 overall at 24 years old. Some decent development this season, especially in the power game. 27 home runs, ties a career high, 79 RBIs, 11 stolen bases with a .307 average. So overall, another strong year for one Bobby Bloom. Just when we needed him the most, he could only muster one hit. So, a tad bit disappointing. You also have Marlon Puh, who is a legitimate 81 overall. We're going to have to make a decision with him as well. Still getting some decent development, of course. And again, in the majors, he didn't do a whole hell of a lot. Will Glover, a 77, who, again, hitting-wise, development-wise, it's kind of done, but hitting-wise, had a strong year in limited plate appearances with that .290 average. One could argue maybe should have gotten a tad bit more playing time, but, that is what it is. And then Kyle Martin as well is not ours. At second, we have Graham Edwards, who's a 91 playing like an 87. How it has him listed in platoon role, it's because of the end of season. I gave AI control. Sorry, Graham. That is what it is. He expects to make $28 million. That's going to be expensive as fuck. Some decent development for him. Unfortunately, lost a little bit of contact against lefties. 13 home runs, 60 RBIs, 29 stolen bases, which is pretty solid, but a .232 average. And we may have a very big decision coming up for one Mr. Edwards as far as whether or not we actually pay him that much money. So there's that. Francisco Jimenez as well is a 79 at 23 years old. A little bit of development here and there. Only 40 at-bats on the season, but did relatively well. And at second, we also have Alexis Cabrera that we just drafted, but of course he won't be there. At third, we start off with one Nolan Jones, who is a legitimate 81 overall. Some good development amongst contact against lefties, but loses it again, a little bit against righties. 14 home runs, 59 RBIs, a 249 average, so a little bit of a disappointing season in some regards, you can certainly argue, as we'll scroll through for those who are inclined to take a look to let me know what we should be looking at. Because, yeah, there was also Lee Wilkins, who's a 76. Again, also had a fairly strong season, limited at bats. Someone who's a bit underrated and probably should be more than a bench player, at least in terms of his ability at the plate. And despite the fact that he's 26 and the C potential, he's not going to get any better. He may be, forcing the issue. There's also Ramon Vasquez, who is a legitimate 77. Some good development this year. Again, unless there's some crazy development in these final 3 seasons or so, he's not going to hit a 90. He'll still be decent, obviously, but didn't do much at the major league level. Also, shout out to Perry Smalls, who is not ours. And at shortstop, we have Joe Quinlan. An 83 overall now at 20 years old. But you get a look at the quirks as well. Some good development this season. 9 home runs, 60 RBIs, 25 stolen bases, and a 263 average. A fairly strong on base as well. So he was definitely worth moving up to that second spot. All in all, not too bad of a rookie year for one Joe Quinlan. And short, we also have Fernando Chavez, who is only a C potential, but some good development this year. Of course, up to a 69 overall, which is, of course, hilarious. Brian Lopez in left, an 89, still playing like a 91. Some regression across the board for the most part, which is a tad bit concerning, but obviously still a really strong player attribute-wise. Had another fairly good season as well, nearly 100. He's never broken the 100 RBI mark, but nearly 100 yet again this season. So there you go. The numbers there for Brian Lopez. Josh Stowers, whose future with the team is very much a doubt now that he's 30 years old, and a 78. Regression across the board. So not a good look for one Mr. Stowers, who still, at a 78, could be quite useful. I mean, you look at guys like Wilkins and Will Glover, who have proven, hey, lower overall guys can still be quite useful, but still, Josh Stowers' time here may be up. We also have Scott Clausen, who we drafted somewhat recently. Some development here and there for the C potential 18-year-old. Dave Miles is also ours, up to a 70 overall for the 20-year-old C potential man. And of course, we still have Calzado and Avila, who we're not exactly worried about. So, yeah, and as it is, Avila might be retirement fodder. At center, we have Eduardo Carrillo, who is still hanging around, 84 overall. Some good development this season for the 30-year-old, which is fairly ridiculous. But a 231 average. Didn't play a ton this season. Also not the strongest at bat on paper, but did fairly well, to be honest. Bryant Kay, up to a 77. Some decent development for him. Glenn Huff, the 78 overall. Some decent development for him as well. Got a decent amount of playing time this season with a 235 average on the year. So there you go for one Glenn Huff. And Stephen Booth up to a 66, but still 23 years old. Probably never going to make it outside of being a pinch running option. And in right, Steven Ryder, 89 overall. Still some development for the 29-year-old. 27 home runs, 96 RBIs, so a career year in that regard with the 300 average as well for the first time ever, if not in a very long time. So Ryder has stepped up. We had to make that decision a few years ago as far as whether or not he was worth keeping, and that does appear to have been the right decision. We have Archie May, who's up to a 74. Some good development across the board outside of stealing and base running aggressiveness dropping off a bit. Dan Williams is up to a 68. Some good development there. Tom Lau, a former first-round pick, first-round pick, I was going to say first overall, up to a 65 at 18 years old. It's not too bad. We also have Damian Montag, who is retirement fodder, and Craig Leary, who will probably never develop. As far as the pitchers are concerned, there's so much to get to when you look at everything. But we have Mason Denneberg, the legit 85 overall. A mixed bag of development, but still 14 and 12 on the year. 3.51 ERA isn't exactly horrific. Maybe not the guy that you want as your ace, but, you know, he is not bad. We also have Joe Bailey, former Rule 5 pickup, the 83 overall. At least the hits per 9 improved. 9-5 record on the year with a 3.04 ERA. So again, also not terrible given some of the other pitchers that we've had and do still have on this team. Thomas Manzanillo is an 80. Mostly regression across the board. 9-10 record with a 3.74 ERA. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see who we're labeling as the cause of us just barely missing out. I mean, aside from those losing streaks, which really didn't help, but Winston Medina, an 80 overall, the Rule 5 pickup, some decent development. 7-16 on the year though. Got the ERA down to a 5.5, but for who I was hoping could be half decent for us in that 5 spot, not quite. We then have Steve Carrasco. Next year should be his first big year with the team as a 78 overall. Some good development this year. Didn't do much at the major league level, but did have a 3-0 season. So very intrigued to see what we get out of one Steve Carrasco next year. Sean Jelly, a 79, 5-15 record this year with a 4.78 ERA. So Mr. Jelly's time as a starter, it might not be Jelly time anymore. He might be out of here. We also have Eduardo Herrera, who would have gotten a decent amount of performances. The 73 overall, the long reliever, 9-3 record with straight 4s for an ERA. But of course, again, as a long reliever, he did get quite a bit of work though. From there, we have Trevino, who's up to a 73. Clyde Martin, some decent development, up to a 71. Luis Cedeno up to a 69, as is Marcus Mendel. Pedro Rodriguez up to a 67. Richie Burnett, a 66. Valenzuela. We got Malgrat up to a 65. Is there anyone else with a decent potential? Daryl Valentin, who is in fact ours, if I'm not mistaken. Although I don't see him on the list. He might not be. We'll find out. And Tommy Alonso, who's definitely ours. Pretty far down there. Bruce Boyle. Unfortunately, his time might be done here with just him wanting to be the closer. It's just not going to happen with how great Will Vincent is. Bruce Boyle is still pretty good, not putting up amazing numbers. So obviously, if we have to choose one over the other, the decision is quite straightforward. Durbin Feltman, a legitimate 79 overall, did have a 6-1 record, nearly 100 innings of work, and frankly did relatively well. Not too upset with the former Rule 5 pickup in Durbin Feltman. John Johnson up to a 74 overall. Still some positives there. Had 67 innings of work this year with 8 holds and a blown save. So not exactly ideal. Edwin Velasquez up to a 75. We still have the likes of Silva and Taveras holding on. Alex Shearer is one of our guys. Is up to a 70. Jack Burden up to a 64. No major players there, though. And Will Vincent, a 95. An absolute monster who I'm starting to be afraid of wasting here. But 45 saves. A new career high. Helps to be able to get saves when your team's actually decent. Unfortunately, though, still no playoff baseball. Only 6 blown saves on the season. Still no postseason baseball for one Will Vincent. Norman Garner up to an 84 at 21 years old for the Hawaiian. 93 innings of work. And was okay. We won't say great. 22 holds on the year with 3 blown saves for one Norman Garner. Napoleon Gillis, who had a pretty good performance in the playoffs outside of the end of it, or the one-game playoff. 79 overall. There's still some positives across the board for the 24-year-old. Didn't play all that much, though. Was mainly down in the minors. Richie Sorvala, a 76. Some minuses. His prime is done. 78 innings of work. To be honest, though, he wasn't that bad. Despite the regression, he wasn't all that bad. At least in terms of the basic numbers. Lincoln Post as well is an 80, so he's just mad about the current setup. That will absolutely change. Didn't play much, though, in the majors. And then Chris Velez up to a 75. Zarate up to a 69. That is the full season stat recap for your Cincinnati Reds as the Red Sox beat the Padres in the World Series. The Dodgers ended up losing to the Padres anyway, who then fell one game short of winning it all. Let's take a look at the awards. League leaders, Brian Lopez with 31 stolen bases, led the way. As far as awards, though, are concerned, postseason MVP, Franmil Reyes, and Vander Samuel Franco. There you go. 3 straight postseason MVPs for the Red Sox out of the AL. They've won 2 out of the last 3 World Series, with Manuel Margot being World Series MVP. MVP in general, Kyle Tucker and Dominic Smith. Cy Youngs to Derek Hackman and Justice Sheffield. Batting titles to Kyle Tucker and Albert Almora Jr. We also have the reliever of the year, Jason Hager and Jermaine Roman. Rookie of the year, Dustin Peterson and Grant Levine. Hank Aaron Award to Kyle Tucker and Ian Happ. So no hardware for any of our players. And overall, what does go down as a fairly disappointing season for us, I got to admit, as Juan Cedeno retires. I think our pitcher, though, is Luis Cedeno. And indeed, it is. Damian Montag, though, does indeed call it a career, which is not all that surprising. Any Hall of Famers? The answer is no. So that brings us to some big-time contract negotiations. We do have some things to worry about in terms of staff, but this is where it gets interesting. Steven Ryder is coming off an amazing year, and thankfully he doesn't want to get paid that much. I mean, he's 30 years old and wants $14.5 million. That's not bad. We can, for the most part, afford to do that. Now, here's the thing. Do we want to give him a 5-year deal? Probably not. We have to start worrying about regression once we get to about 33, 34 years old. The question is, how quickly will he drop off? So, 5 years might not be the worst. I'd say for the most part, Steven Ryder should be re-signed. Let me know if you disagree, though. With Graham Edwards, he's looking for $28 million a season. Here's the problem. I don't know if he's worth it. I don't. He is a 91. He's not playing like it right now, but at a 91 overall, what do you guys think? With the attributes that are there, again, that way you can get a look at the wheel. Definitely a defensive first option. You can see his numbers. He wasn't exactly lights out at the plate in terms of average. On-base percentage was still fairly strong, though. Should Graham Edwards be a $25+ million player? I'm leaning no, despite the fact I don't want to get rid of him. But odds are he'll be signed and we'll get some decent compensation. Sean Gielli as well, former Rule 5 pickup. I mean, let's be honest, we might not have anybody to replace him, but now is probably the right time to let him go. He is only looking for $5.7 million, but even then, that might be too much. If we could get him on a 1-year deal, just as a placeholder, maybe, but odds are no. Lee Wilkins is looking for $5.2 million. Here is the problem. If we want to keep Lee Wilkins, he needs to be a starter. That's it. And is he going to be a starter? The answer is probably no when you factor in who else we have here. I'd love to keep him, but Bobby's our first baseman. That's indisputable. Graham Edwards might be gone, and if we let go of Graham, we do have Jimenez, who we might not even want to keep anyway. Nolan Jones is still there at third. Lee Wilkins is there. Vasquez is pretty much going to be ready to be called up next year. So if we lose Graham Edwards, we can replace him with Vasquez, but that means we still have Quinlan at short. So between Nolan Jones, Lee Wilkins, Francisco Jimenez, who plays third base if we let go of Graham Edwards? So that's what we have to factor in. We know Wilkins at the plate has been tremendous for one reason or another. It's just whether or not we trust him over some other options. And then there's Will Glover as well, which same thing. He's looking for 4.9. We cannot pay him that unless he's going to be a starter, and now it's even less likely. So, I mean, as far as catching is concerned, between Abreu, Rincon, and Shipman, we pretty much have to choose 2 out of 3. If anything, we have to rank them as far as who would we prefer to keep. And if we have to get rid of somebody because of, just a negative morale to where it makes them not worth keeping, we'll have to, we might have to move somebody there. First base-wise, again, just the depth that we have at the infield spots, but Marlin should be starting. If anything, it's diminishing returns. Will Glover, And again, if we get rid of Graham Edwards, we still have Jimenez, we still have Jones, Wilkins, Vasquez, and Joe Quinlan. We need to sort out this infield, and outfield-wise as well. I mean, Lopez, Stowers, Carrillo, Kay, Huff, Ryder, and Archie May might be ready next season. Well, we're gonna have to undergo a lot of change. It's just a matter of who stays and who goes. And to get a look at the starting pitching options, we could survive getting rid of Sean Jelly. We could. Might not be the most ideal option, but we could survive it if we wanted to rely on Winston Medina, which is also not a safe option, but it is, in fact, an option. So I'm going to leave that up to you guys as far as the big money moves. For me, I think the best move, probably keep Steven Ryder, ditch Graham Edwards and Jelly, and then Wilkins and Glover, I honestly don't know. It depends on who we vote to keep. So I want to hear from you guys first. Of course, we'll make sure to hire some staff along the way. That'll do it for this one. Unfortunately, we fall just short of our goal. But obviously, next year, the goal is quite clear. It's playoffs or bust. If we miss out on the playoffs, we will absolutely be viewing that as a failure. Last year, we could have made it. This year, we should have made it. Next year, we need to make it. Looking forward to your feedback on what we should do to set up this team heading into the next year. And again, let me know just your opinions, everything we should be considering in terms of decision making. But for now, we are done here. Thank you guys for supporting this series. I do appreciate it. Like I said, the pressure's on next season for whoever remains on this team to be playoff bound. We'll see if we can get it done. Until next time, have a good one. I'll see you then.